we need to be uncomfortable as well. We got to learn. We need to learn from mistakes, and we need to learn new things.
Yeah.
And we might not be, comfortable running a certain thing, but if it best fits your kids, you become comfortable with it.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. Today we are joined by the head boys basketball coach at Greenhill School, Joey Sims. Coach Sims has been coaching for 25 years, 14 as a head coach. He's led the Hornets to 7 straight 20-win seasons and to the SPC state finals in 2022. He has an overall record of 286 wins and 175 losses. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast. There he is.
Hey, Matt, what's going on, man?
Oh, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good.
I gotta first tell you how much I appreciate the believe sign up above your head there.
Yes, that's from my wife, man. I'm telling you, I love me some Ted Lasso.
So great. You just got to be a goldfish, man. That's
Yes,
it.
definitely. That's the best line out of that series. It's greatness.
Yeah. So tell me how you're doing.
I'm all right. I'm all right. We had a tough end of the year,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was that was one of those gut checks, and it was unfortunate how it happened. I don't know if you knew how
No,
we ended.
go ahead into it if you don't mind.
Sure. We played in the championship game of the SPC. We ended up losing at the buzzer. They were up 2, and their player hit 3 in a row to end the game, and he pump fake and off balance 3 and to win it, and we ended up losing by 1. Tough one.
Yeah.
And my best player, Noah, he got injured the game, our semifinal game against St. Mark's, and we thought it was just a bone bruise. And our trainer looked at him and
Yeah.
taped him up, and he was good. Got a tough kid. He played 32 minutes on one leg.
Oh,
Found
wow.
out he went and got an MRI that Monday afterwards, and he had a stress fracture and a torn ligament in that ankle.
Oh,
And he played every minute,
but he
and
played on that.
they played the whole game.
Wow.
Yeah, he tough kid, and
Yeah.
he was just limited to kind of being a decoy, but he was my point guard, and everything. You know how that goes. Everything you do goes through him and big fella Lee, and
Yeah.
it was just we were scrambling a little bit, but I'm proud of the kids, man. They fought the entire game and just came up short.
And I got to ask you, it's just since you mentioned that, and not many teams, I think, make it to the championship game, and not many teams have an opportunity to win near the end of a game like that, and to lose in that fashion. If you could, what was the message like to those guys? Right after that game in that moment.
Man, I'll tell you, that was one. I've been doing this for 25 years, and that was one of the hardest things to do, to go in that locker room. The got last time you talked to those seniors, and
Yeah.
tears all over the place in that room. But when I went in, that I didn't, and I'll tell you, I learned a lot from just hearing other coaches. And one of the things I grabbed from one of your podcasts actually was from Danny, and
Nice.
how Danny talked about short sound bites.
Yeah.
This is it kind of different. I've been like that after losses, and I learned that, kind of from Danny and other guys, is just don't go in there ranting and raving, and just make it short. But this one's the last time with those guys. And basically, to sum up, what I told them was, if this is the biggest or worst thing that happens to you in your life, you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. And that's hard to say, because I know, I want to win just as much as the next guy.
Yeah.
But I know that those guys are going to go on to bigger, better things.
Yeah, but helping them is just have a little bit of perspective in that moment, I think, is huge, and probably helped you as well, because as competitive as the players are, I think as coaches we think we're more competitive.
No doubt. My mentor told me a long time ago, and this is wrong true, that you're always going to take it harder than them. It's going to stick with you longer. It'll stick with the kids, don't get me wrong, but it's going to linger longer with you as a coach than it will with those guys that a week or 2 days that they're over it and
Bus
they're
right.
do they're moving
Bus
on to bigger,
right.
better things. With us, I mean, it was 2 weeks. I couldn't watch basketball, man,
Yeah.
for 2 solid weeks, and I didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to talk about it, and I just needed to get myself through that. And through my faith, it brought me through it.
I bet there's a lot of coaches out there that feel like you that golly, my guys just don't care enough, or that when you realize that they don't care as much as we do, and I think sometimes we forget the fact that it's our job, but it's their game. I like that
Hmm.
way of looking at it. It's just their game, and not many of them look at it like it's a job like we do. But how do you help yourself with handling that those moments where you realize they're okay, why isn't this hurting them as much as it's hurting me? How do you deal with that?
I think I like what you said there, that this is our livelihood and it's a game for them. And I preach to the kids all the time. My favorite type of player is not the one that loves to win, because I mean, little kids, when they're first playing games where they, first time they put a score on the scoreboard, or, or they get candy or a juice box after the game, they love that feeling. That's easy. But I like the kid that hates to lose,
Yeah.
those ones that physically it hurts them. But in the big picture of things, we just got to learn that, we need to move on, and there's bigger and better thing. Like I told those kids, if this is the worst thing that happens to you in your life, you're gonna be okay. And I got to take that mentality a little bit. One thing my wife tells me this, and I've never lived next door to a school. I've always had a commute. Okay. And my wife, I like that drive, that decompressed drive. So
Yeah.
I don't bring it home. My wife will tell me she's been she coached for about 2 years when she first started education. And so she understands a coach. She gives me 5 minutes when I get home. That's it. I get 5 minutes. I can vent, I can let it out for 5 minutes, and then it's over. And so I got to think, that drive, I got to think about the 5 minutes that I'm going to get to, preach a little bit. And then
Is
after
it?
that, it's done.
Yeah,
It's
you got
done.
to you got to use those 5 minutes wisely right there.
Very
Yeah.
bullet points and everything. I got to take.
Oh, I think that's a good nugget though, and I love that approach of your wife, and because a lot of coaches we bring home the games or the practices or the parent emails or parent meetings
Mm,
that we go through. We bring those home, and there is a level of, I think, many of us have just a wonderful wives that do love to listen and to be there, but there is a part two where we there's a moment where we have to let it go and just be home, be present.
no doubt, no doubt. I had the blessing, and I guess it was hard as well. I coached my oldest. He went through Greenhill, and that there were some struggles at home. Mama, Mama thought, why did you pull him out of the game? And we had this discussions about, let me do my job,
That's
and
right.
we'll get to. I'm looking for the best, not just for my son, but for all the players on the team. So
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Biology. What's your BSA score? The Biology Skill Assessment is the only verified skills metric endorsed by the NIA and NJCAA to discover and develop the best talent for your team. This 10-minute, 100-shot test can be taken for free today on the Biology mobile app. Elevate your game. What's your favorite culture building activity?
I tell you, and obviously, us as coaches, we steal things from other people, and I all the different social media platforms, man. There's a plethora of things that you can grab from other people. About 5 years ago, I got this deal that we do called Mainly Mondays, and it's actually from a football coach up north. And what it is just kind of life lessons that we teach. It has nothing to do with basketball. And each week on Monday after practice for about 15, 20 minutes, I'll teach them different things, or other coaches will come in and teach them. We've done stuff, how to do laundry, um, how to change oil in a car, how to change a tire, how to jump start your car. And we pull all the guys out there, and we just kind of go through things, just teach them things that they could carry with them later in life. And that's one of my favorite things that we do with the kids because they love it. A lot of these kids have never learned those things before. I didn't,
Yeah.
know how to change a tire when no one taught me, and I was lost the first time I had to do that. And trying to find, I didn't know where the spare was.
Yeah.
And now these kids, we're trying to give them little things that they can do that hopefully they can pass down to their kids down the road. We've done how to, mow your lawn and how to do woodworking and things like that. And the kids, they love it. And that's one of my favorite things. And it has nothing to do with basketball.
That's what I was going to say. There's so many times when I love getting asked this question. Uh, Rewind back to a little bit of motivation for why I wanted to do this in the first place was about 2 years ago during the pandemic. I was talking with a girls coach from Rockwall about shooting, and we were just having a good conversation about that. And it just on its own veered to a culture building activity that she did where she would every fall would take her kids to a retreat. Well, that's not a lot of people do that, but it was what she did there and the questions and stuff that she did. I thought, wow, like that's really good. And how many other coaches, especially in Texas, and have things like that that are necessary or things that we can pull from. And it's almost been a year now of getting to do these, but I'll tell you it's so cool to hear. And when I think of culture, I immediately go to how can this make our team better on the
Mm-hmm.
floor? And not that it doesn't help them off the floor too, but I love the fact that you're taking something, was it Manly Mondays?
Yeah.
Yeah, but great lessons that these guys will need for their life. And talk about building a culture where there's more trust. But I think when players know that you care about them as people more than just as a basketball player, then you really get buy-in. And I think that's incredible. I love that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. We've had parents come in and talk about, different things and relate it kind of more character type of things like being honest and you reap what you sow and things like that. So it's been great. One of my favorite ones, the one we usually start with, is dating. How to take someone out on a date and the things you need to do and how to be respectful and things like that. So it's been a blessing for me and for my staff, for just to see the guys and connect, and it really helps them in that locker room too. They connect in that locker room well with it.
Yeah, I think a big takeaway there is that culture building activities or things that you do to create a better atmosphere for your team don't have to be revolving around the game.
Hmm.
It can be on other things because you're right on the money. I had to figure out in college how to put on a spare tire by myself. And I had a dad at home. It just didn't come up.
Yep.
And how many of these guys that we have today are in the same boat? I love the fact that you start with dating,
Hmm.
because they probably think, well, I just do it all through my phone, right? And
Yeah, no
no,
doubt.
there's way more to it than that. What daily habits set you up for success?
When I read that question, and at first I kind of put it personal. What I do each day. I start my day every day with a devotional. I have to. I mean, it's something that enriches me and gets me prepared, and through prayer, obviously, in the mornings. I need that. That's my daily bread every morning. Is I start with that. Some different things that I do throughout the day is I have to exercise every day. I mean, that's just kind of my ground myself, get my mind focused, and I do things like that's basically 7 days a week. I'm doing some sort of either cardio or lifting exercise. And then one of my favorite things that I have to do, and I don't know, I just I've done it from day one when I started this profession, and I've done it every day during the seasons. I enjoy sweeping the floor.
Hmm.
Um, I go out there and people have told me, no, we got people to do that. Some reason I get peace out of doing that. I don't know why. I just do. And it just allows me to kind of go over the floor and think about things I need to do and think about players. And I do that every day. I'll sweep that floor during the season. Obviously film. I got to watch film every day during the season. I'm watching and a lot off season too. I'm watching film and you know, practice and game planning with my assistants, which is, pretty normal. I end my day with, I do another devotional before I go to bed and prayer and reflection. What could I have done better? What are some things that did I do someone wrong today that I didn't lift them up and make sure I make it right the next day? So that's kind of my daily habits that I'm pretty consistent with.
I love it, and I love the question is for the personal habits that great leaders, great coaches have, and that came really from I thought listening to Buzz Williams at
Mm,
the Early Bird talk at TABC a few years ago when he went through his daily calendar of things that I just thought, how many days do I start out having no clue what the day is going to bring? Maybe there's a few things and how intentional am I being? So I love the fact that bookend your beginning and your end. Is there a certain devotional that you're using right now or that you have used that you like?
In the mornings, I'll use my Bible app,
Yeah.
and they have great devotionals just on different topics, and I'll just kind of sort through there. What do I need? Like right now I'm doing prayer, and to end my day I use my daily bread, our daily bread. I use every, and just go through the each what the date of the year is, and
Yeah.
just kind of go through that. And it's got 3 or 4 verses with it, and it's real short and sweet. And that's kind of how I end it, just to kind of book in my day that way.
Nice. You said you work out 7 days a week. Mano Watsa, the president of PGC, one of his
Hmm.
key beliefs is to sweat daily. And I
Yep.
think there is something huge about that. What kind of workout are you on, or what's your go-to?
When I was younger, I had a membership at 24 Hour Fitness. I did that, and I finally got to the point where I was like, man, I'm wasting money throwing it there. I'm going, but I feel like I'm going to go ahead and break down. So I bought a full, purchase a full weight room at my house, and I have cardio equipment in my house, and I got a rowing machine and a
Oh, nice.
treadmill and a full weight room. But here I'll ride the bike here every day for about 30 minutes. And I'm been fortunate to have a little break in my day where I can work that in. And that's consistent. 5 days a week I'm on that bike, and then I'll lift at home. And then when I'm at home, I'll do I'll get on the rowing machine for about 30 minutes.
Nice. You mentioned sweeping the floor. And that's really interesting that you said that. I don't know if I've ever had a talk with other coaches about like whether or not they enjoy doing that. Like how many coaches out there also enjoy sweeping the floor because I think it's one of my favorite things to do.
Hmm.
And there's a piece to it. I have a lot of clarity in those moments, and then maybe it also has to do with serving. The fact that
Yep.
we feel like we're really serving our players, helping them to prepare and be their very very best, taking care of what we would kind of call our house or our home at school. But interesting that you have that habit too.
Yeah, it's just something that I don't know if it's. Well, I think it goes back to my dad, and he was a drill instructor in the Marine Corps, and he was like 4 generations of DIs in the Marine Corps. So
Wow.
I had a lot of discipline growing up, and my dad always told me that don't be above, don't think you're above anything, don't think you're above, and I take that thought process of sweeping the floor, of picking up trash that's left out or things like that. So it is kind of a servant deal, but I also kind of angle it too that I'm willing to do whatever it takes, and I think it's something I like to have my kids have the best, and I want the floor to look good, I want the locker room to look good, and I think that bleeds over to the kids definitely.
Yeah, and you and we're in similar situations where we're at private schools, but different clientele though. I mean, as far as our basketball players go, where a lot of our players at Faith come to the school just mainly for the academics and for the environment that's there, and they like to play basketball. You actually have a couple guys that are pretty high level, but not like they're all entitled, but the entitlement thing can come on both sides of that. The kids that financially can pay for a private
Hmm.
school like Faith, or entitlement as a player that is higher ranked and has had a lot of things given to them. I think it's great to have those types of reminders for those players.
No doubt.
The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
What opportunities for learning and growth have you recently found?
I'll tell you, if anything positive came out of COVID, I think it's just the resources online that you have now. All the online clinics is great. I mean, subscribe to the TABC clinic webinars and things like that, and you can just pull those up at any time, and that has been great. A lot of social media stuff, chat rooms, I'll pull from. I learned long ago that I don't know everything. I mean, I'll the day that I think I do know everything, I need to retire.
Yeah.
So I pull a lot from other coaches, whether, old school, going to their practices. I enjoyed going to your practice last year, and just learning things. You can always learn stuff from other coaches. But really, I think that the most recent that's what wasn't in my wheelhouse before is definitely all the different online clinics you can find. And I think that's a resource that definitely happened just, as a result of, COVID, and you had no other choice but to do it and put them out there.
You mentioned the TABC clinics. Any others that come right to your mind that you love to go to, or is it sometimes? I mean, YouTube to me is
Yes.
a clinic in itself. Like
Hmm.
you can find it all.
No doubt. I've pulled a lot of stuff that I really like from YouTube. A lot of, we used a lot of the Butler series this year, their horn series, and different twists that we could run off that. And that's free. You just go in and search it, and it's right there for you. I mean, and obviously I love going to clinics. I go to Buzz's every year at A&M. I really
I
enjoy that.
need to. When is that? Is
It's usually I think right in October, early
Okay.
October,
Yeah.
it
I
happens.
need to get out there next year, because that's something I've seen come and go, and after I miss it, I always wish I would have gone.
And Buzz is, like you said, is you get more organizational type of stuff from Buzz than anybody else. Because I mean, I've seen that. I have 3 or 4 copies of that schedule that he does. And I
That
don't know how he
calendar.
fits all of that into one day. It's unbelievable.
Assistants. He has assistants, but
Yes,
no,
yeah, no doubt.
yeah, but it is impressive. I was talking with Chris Hill from Jesuit,
Hmm.
and uh, he had a great point about we want our players this time of year. So when you and I are talking, it's late March right now, and we want our players to improve this spring and summer, to add to their game, to not come back to school the same. But how often are we as coaches doing the same thing? And
It's
it
true.
sounds like you kind of have that growth mindset of you're wanting to add some things to your tool belt, for the future.
No doubt. Yeah, and yeah, you have to every year learn something. You can pick up whether it's just a drill, one drill, something different. And the kids crave that. They want something different. You did the same thing every day, same drills every day. It becomes monotonous, and they need something fresh.
I believe that too. Like I think uh, we want to like I love I'm possible stuff from Micah Lancaster.
Hmm.
I've been a fan of his for a long time with his accountability tools, and if you don't understand the accountability tools, then it just looks like a circus that they're putting on. But there's a lot to it. But I've always wondered, what's the balance of doing things that, not just traditional things, but doing things over and over and over again to create patterns and habits, or throwing out something new almost every day to get to their creativity so they don't get bored, that they're always learning new things. What do you think? What's a good balance there?
I have a few drills that I do every day just because we do this 3-line closeout drill every day, just teaching on moving on the flight of the ball. And that's just, something just to pound the importance of it. But I think if you did every drill every day, you don't have anything fresh, they become robotic.
Yeah.
I think that they're just going through the motions and they're not going to give you everything. And like you said, that creative side, you have to be creative in a game. You can't script everything out that's going to happen in a game. And you need those kids. They need to think. They need to be critical thinkers. And if you do the same thing every day, I think you fall into where they become robotic and they can't think on the fly.
What's one quality you see in great leaders?
Work ethic. I think work ethic is when I've always the best teams that I've ever coached. Your best player is your hardest worker. When you have that dynamic, you're going to be tough to beat. And this past year, I believe my best 2 players were my hardest workers. And they showed up every day ready to work, and they led by example. And that's important. I've had some my best players, and they're not the hardest workers, and they're not great leaders. And that locker room was tough to deal with. But if you have that combination, that dynamic of your hardest workers or your leaders, and they're your best players, man, I'm telling you, great things can happen. Definitely.
I think you're right on the money there. If we look back over the years and the teams that we've had, those special years, typically we had good players, but they are also hardest workers and great leaders. I think the question is, maybe what's your advice on, you have some talent, but they don't necessarily work hard, work smart, or work consistently, and they don't necessarily lead the locker room the right way. What are some things that you do to try to steer them or lead them in that direction?
I think a lot of it starts from day one with accountability. The kids need to be accountable for their actions, and that kind of goes into a question we're going to talk about later is discipline and self discipline every day. It requires more. I like the players to govern themselves in that locker room and create that environment. I don't want to be like a helicopter coach hanging over them in the locker room. I want them to govern that locker room. And in a perfect world, they get along greatly. And I understand we don't live in a perfect world. There's going to be times where they just honestly, they don't like each other. They don't mesh well. And I've had that locker room. I've had that dynamic before. And, that's something that you have to address almost daily, that, hey, it's okay. I'm not asking you to, be best friends with everybody. But when we step on this floor, we got to respect each other and we got to have each other's back on the floor. Now, when you leave here, I don't expect you guys to go to the movies together or things like that. But when you're on the floor, respect each other and do your best to show that respect out on the floor. And that's something that you have to address almost daily.
Yeah.
You can't just say it one time and expect, a magic wand to wave over it and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. The hope is that for all of your players, winning is something they have in common, or the will to win, wanting to win. Coach Tang, who just got the Kansas State job, I just took a video of his. I think it was one of the first times he's talking to his new team. And he just said, we're going to be about winning. We're going to be about winning how we go to class. We're going to be about winning how we show up and prepare for practice. And he said, if you're not about winning, it's not all right. I think that's one of those areas where, like, that you're right. They don't have to be best friends, but if they are about winning, then they will get along on the floor. They'll figure out a way to set things aside for the greater good. I just love the way that Coach Tang put that about winning and how that's, you could take winning out and put excellence, that word excellence in there too. Like, that's what we're about.
Yep, no doubt. I like that the thought process of winning every day. win the day
Yeah.
every time you step on the floor. And that's something, I address with the kids, all the stuff that you have, the tests coming up, the girlfriend problems, whatever. When you step in this gym, let it go. Let's just focus on playing and having fun and working hard. And that's something that myself and my assistants do. I think we do a pretty good job of addressing that every day, leaving that at the door, leave all that junk at the door. And let's, for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, let's just put the focus in on basketball and playing together as a team.
That's a life lesson though too,
Mm.
is that it kind of we talked about it early on with our wives coming home and coming home from a really tough game and a tough moment and letting that go. The ability mentally to let something put it aside. I think that's huge for our players to learn that, or else one day they're gonna have a tough morning with their kids or their dogs. Their dogs do something all over the place. They're already late.
Yep.
They get to work for a huge presentation, and mentally they don't have the ability to let that go and focus. So I think you're helping them in a big way by teaching them that.
Yeah, it's constant. I mean, it's an ongoing process, and that's something we do these character lessons as well. I post them in the locker room and we talk about them before practice. And it's a different being a leadership or being a good teammate, things like that. And once again, I took this from someone else, but we spend the first while they're stretching. I do it while they're moving, and we talk about leadership or being a good teammate. And I have a probably about 20 of them, 25 of them. We post them twice a week, and we'll talk about them during the first part of practice, and just kind of gets our mind focused in on the what we're going to do today in practice and get that mentality right.
What are the standards or pillars of your program?
Something I took from a coach, and once again a football coach many years ago. Our motto, or what we go by every day, is it's TPW, tough people win.
Hmm.
And that's something that every year I got a big poster that I put up in the locker room, and they see it every day. And that's kind of our mantra is, and it can cover so many different things. Life's going to be tough. You're going to have, like what we just talked about, relationship problems or whatever, but tough people find a way to win that. And I stress that every day. Tough people win. You show up, you're going to have pain during the season. You're going to have, some nagging pain throughout the season. It might be a sore hamstring or whatever, but tough people find a way to battle through that. And we talk about the difference between pain and injury quite a
Yeah.
bit, and that kind
Yeah.
of falls under that TPW thing. One thing I stole from Buzz as well is fight in the middle of the ring. Every day we go in there and we're fighting in the middle of the ring. We don't hang on the ropes. We're we're running sprints. I'm big about not hunched over and grabbing your knees. Stand up big, stand up tall, and
Yeah.
don't let them see you weak. So we try to get that toughness mentality every day in practice. So I would say that is probably my biggest pillar of my
Yeah.
program, is that TPW.
I love that. I love that TPW. I would imagine like that allows your best player to battle through that injury and play in the championship game, even though
Yeah.
it was hard. But that can't be something that just in the moment it comes up. And like, if you haven't been preaching that all year long, and then all of a sudden in the moment you say, hey, you know what? Here's a good nugget for you. TPW. That's not gonna do anything, but it's this constant talk. And so when that moment happens, that idea comes right to his mind. But then also, I mean, I don't know about if you struggle with this, and uh, players will go to doctors outside of our trainers or programs, especially with COVID and things. Like, to me it feels like it's getting harder and harder to ask a player just to push through something,
Mm.
and because where's the line? At what point could they or their parents think this isn't what I wanted to do? You pushed me too far. There's that piece. How do you deal with that, with kind of today, with the idea of we want our players to be tough, but knowing that they may be coming from environments where it's not like that?
I've dealt other places I've been. It wasn't. The kids bought into that and they could battle through that easier. Um, Here is a little bit different because of just the dynamic that I have here. Um, but I think when you start getting that when it bleeds to the entire program, and you see one or two buy into it and it starts spreading to the other kids, and it's kind of goes into that. If you have good leadership with your players, your captains are great leaders. I think that kind of spreads out to the rest of the
Yeah.
program. And I think it's important and that comes from when I'm choosing. I used to have the players nominate who needs to be captain, but I choose them now because I think that you get in a popularity. It's like a beauty pageant,
Yeah.
and yeah, good kid, but is that what I'm looking for? Because I ask a lot of the captains, a lot, and I think it comes better that when the coaching staff gets together and say, "Hey, this is the ideal candidate for that position." And I've had times, Matt, where it's not your best player. I've had a kid that would come off the bench that was end up being my captain, and that team went well. They did a good job of following him because he was the hardest worker and he was vocal, but he lifted them up as well. So I think those are some important aspects of that to get those kids to battle through, a little bit of hardship. Because I tell them from day one, it's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
The season's a roller coaster. You can have ups and downs, and true characters displayed during times of adversity. And we talk a lot about adversity, whether we're in it or we're going through it, right in the middle of it or we're out of it. I think it's important that, kids learn that because life's going to throw, haymakers at you. You got to learn how to duck them or pull yourself off the canvas. Those are two important things.
I think one thing might be helpful with trying to create it's really whatever pillars or standards you're trying to create in your program is celebrate those moments when you see them. Because there's times where I've seen a player get like a really bad dead leg. And in my mind, like that word contusion's out there. Like it's a bruise, it's a bruise. And like you could dead legs do hurt, but you can run through them. And so there's times where I've seen a kid do that, but I don't comment on it almost because I think, well, they should expect to push through something. I should expect that they should. But I think if we're trying to, if we want habits to, like you said, bleed over and other players to do it, then you see a player push through something, then you celebrate that. Because I think what Mana Watsa told me that more is caught than taught. Like when they see me just celebrating another player for pushing through pain or pushing through adversity, then they record that happening and they remember that and hopefully want to, do that habit themselves.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Another thing, I'm big on quotes. I post quotes in that locker room, mental toughness, quotes all the time. I put a quote up before every game. And at the end of the year, I make a quote book for the seniors, all those different quotes that they, I put on their lockers, and I give that to them at the end of the year. But one of my favorites, and this is one that the kids hear all throughout the year, and I think it kind of, hopefully it'll ring in their head when they need to push through something. And when you have that bad day, is from Coach Knight, and it talks about self-discipline, taking something you don't want to do and doing it to the best of your ability all the time. And I think it could be be sprints, conditioning, whatever. And I think it kind of, hopefully that rings in their head because they hear it enough. They hear that quote more than any other. And that's trying to get that mental toughness mentality about them in those times. You get the dead leg or might tweak that ankle a little bit. You can still go, but it's pain. It's not injury.
Yeah. I love the fact that you put quotes up on the walls, and a lot of those will stick. I'm wondering if this ever happens to you, because I think it happens to me when you tell them something, and then in the moment you have to ask yourself, am I following these quotes myself
Mm,
that I'm because I've said some things like that. I love that quote right there. But I think as you get older, you can start to insulate yourself a little bit to where, like, from when I wake up to the end of my day, how many things do I actually do that I don't like doing? Like,
mm,
how many times am I getting, like, we want our players to get uncomfortable,
yeah.
to experiment, to not in a good way, and try new things, to, experiment on the floor, to get uncomfortable in the weight room, to push themselves, to learn new things. But then how many times am I telling them things that I'm not actually doing myself? I don't know if there's other coaches that feel that way, but when you said that quote, like, that is a good one. The moment you say it, though, like, I got to make sure I'm doing those things on my own.
Yep, no doubt. And it's something that, as you get older, you kind of get set in your ways. You're a creature of habit, and things that are outside of your comfort zone, just like what you said. You want the kids uncomfortable at times. Um, we need to be uncomfortable as well. We got to learn. We need to learn from mistakes, and we need to learn new things.
Yeah.
And we might not be, comfortable running a certain thing, but if it best fits your kids, become comfortable with it. Find a way, research it, talk to other people, and that's kind of goes back to that question we had earlier. We need to constantly try to learn.
Coaches, the one thing that every team needs is confident shooters. The last 8 years at Grapevine Faith, our teams have averaged 354 made threes each season. I love getting to share with coaches how our shooters train and, more importantly, how they think. If you would like to enhance your shooting culture at your school, contact me directly at jamodipodcast@gmail.com.
How does individual skill development work into your daily practice?
My practice schedule starts dribble, pass, shoot every day. We start it, and that's usually about 24 minutes, 8-minute sessions, and we'll roll them into 3 different stations with myself working one and 2 of my assistants working the other ones. I've been fortunate that my head assistant Michael Hill does skill instruction for a living, and he's one of the best I've ever been around. Great, great, great with skill instruction. Younger guy, so he can get out there and do this stuff. Whereas I can kind of just say it. I'm 50
You,
years old.
you
I
can
can't.
describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
paint the picture. And they of course they try to get me to do things all the time, and I'm like, man, I got 2 bad knees and a replaced hip. So, but we'll do that. That we'll start practice that way every time, and then we do individuals. About the middle of practice, we'll break up bigs and smalls, and work with them for about 12 minutes doing that. So that's every day of practice. We're doing that. Saturdays is straight skill development. We'll come in on Saturdays for about 45 minutes. We'll go through shooting. I mean, just ton of shooting on Saturdays, and then go into film, and then they have weights. So a huge part of my practice is skill development day in and day out.
I love getting ask that question to coaches, because I think the tendency is, once the season begins, individual skill work stops and it's all
Mm,
about team, team, team. Well, if that happens, then maybe your best player or your starters are actually getting better in the season. The rest of them aren't, because they're not getting the reps anymore. But if your identity, as a team, and your offense, whatever, is based on them individually getting better, well, then skill work will be a big part of that practice. How much, if you could do a percentage, like, what's your percentage of individual skill work and teamwork in a practice? What's that look like?
man, and you add in individual defensive stuff that I
Yeah.
do as well. I would say it is probably probably about 60% of my practice is in skill work, individual skill, whether it's individual defense stuff, and obviously offense. So probably at least 60%.
I think a byproduct of that too is they'll show up to practice excited to be there more.
Hmm.
Like, the idea that practices aren't for your enjoyment, that quote that we all love from Hoosiers, that's just not. I just don't know if that applies anymore. And what's the harm in them, getting better every day in practice, and structuring it that way. you are fortunate in the fact that you have a younger guy that can do skill work, and because you're right. As you get older, like I'm struggling now more and more to show them things and to do things. But one thing, this may be helpful. I was watching an online clinic that the I'm Possible guy, Michael Lancaster, was putting on. And he had one of his skill trainers. And it's almost like what's it called when you can franchise. It's almost like a franchise model with him now, where he gives people his resources and then you do it. Well, he had this one skills coach up and he's like, I never played. He's an older guy. I never played. I don't have the skill to do it, but this has helped me a ton. He uses his fist as the basketball. And he's like, so any drill that I'm doing, I don't use a ball. I actually use my fist and I mimic the movement and what they're doing. And he's like, the best thing is I never lose the ball. I never lose my fist. And
that's good.
And because there's a lot of things, the Lancaster stuff stretches me. I'm more of a traditionalist with ball handling and dribbling and two ball stuff, but more on the Pistol Pete side. You start putting in a med ball, tennis ball, cone, and it's foreign to me, but if I can do it with a fist. And if I can get low and look dynamic, I can still fake it enough. So that's just something for those coaches. The coaches that think I don't do individual skill work because I can't show it. There's a way to get around it, is use your fist as the ball.
That's a good point.
All right, coach, speed round.
Okay.
Quick questions. And I'm going to get to learn more about you and know you better than ever dreamed. You ready?
All righty.
All right. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Mint chocolate chip.
It's the same. I love that. For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
Shot clock. We get it. We get it this next year. I'm excited.
After the speed round, I'm going to circle back around to that because you will be the first person that I've talked to on here that is going to have it. So that's exciting. Texting or talking?
Talking.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Invisibility or super strength?
Super strength.
Nice. If you could travel back in time, what period would you go to?
Ooh, Western.
Favorite childhood TV show?
Oh man. Childhood. And I'm trying to think. That one's
you can always
tough.
pass.
I'll pass on that one. I can.
All right. I don't ask this one a bunch. How many hours of sleep do you need?
I like to have 8, but I end up getting probably about 6.
Yeah. 2 more. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
I don't drink coffee.
No energy drinks at all or anything like that?
I'll drink Spark.
Okay. Still a little Advocare.
Yep.
Nice. And then last one, Godfather or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Nice. The force is strong. I could feel it. So we were, in the speed round, you mentioned that at SPC, you guys are adopting the shot clock next year. Give me a little bit more details about that.
Man, first of all, I'm excited. I think that, we're going 30 seconds with it, and I believe it's 30. And I'm excited because, we actually played in the Tarkanian Classic this past year, and they had a shot clock there. And I was originally sitting there thinking, man, my first thought was, we haven't done this. So
Yeah.
I'm worried about this. And then I look back, we haven't had a possession that went over 22 seconds anyway.
That's right.
So it didn't matter. And we had no problems with it. We never had anything close to a violation. I'm excited just because there's so many different things that you can do, defensively that puts pressure on teams with a shot clock. You're not going to get teams holding the ball out there. We had teams do it to us this year. So it just kind of adds a whole different element. I'm all on board. I've been preaching for this for years, and I'm excited that SPC is the only one right now that's doing it. And I think we're getting a little ahead of the game, and I think it's going to definitely spread over to all the other organizations as well.
I'm personally so excited that you guys are doing it, because it'll prove to UIL taps that it's possible. I mean, because it's happening in other states and it's been happening for a long time, but actually like you guys proving that it can work. My question, so it's going to have to be another person on the scores table that's working that. Is that going to be an issue at all? Because we work off of parent volunteers for book and clock and things like that. What do you guys do?
Well, so basically, we hired someone to come in and do the book this past year, just because when you had a kid, we had one of my managers do it in years past, and it cost them. They did a good job, but it was just kind of, I guess, the way it looked, and the other if it was a tight game, I think that you get some issues in there, and so we hired someone to come in, and the conference is going to, want someone, an official working that clock. So we've already talked to our chapter, and they're going to send someone to work the clock. So you'll have 3 officials plus the person working the clock as well, the shot clock.
Oh, so what chapter do you use?
We are kind of it's mostly Dallas chapter, but it's kind of a subset of that chapter. There's a guy that runs it, that pulls, about 10, 12 guys that might not want to drive where Dallas assigns him, way far away from their house. And he does a good job of pulling people in. We usually have the same ones pretty consistently that come to our gym on our home games. And like ESD has the same, kind of uses the same cluster of officials that we do. And so does St. Mark. So we see kind of the same people through those 3 locations.
So you'll have your 3-man crew, 3-person crew that comes in, and there'll just be a 4th person that's what they do. And they're working with the officials, because that to me was one of the best arguments against it, was having somebody trained to run it. But that to me is exciting to hear, because once you guys do that, it'll just be a new service that these officiating chapters can provide. That's good news.
Definitely. And that's the last discussion we had about it, is that's what their thought process was going to be on it. I know they're training them for it. I think they're going to be doing it this summer or maybe in the fall. But the last conversation I had is that's kind of the way they're going to attack it.
Defensively, what are some of the fun things you're thinking about, or that you could see happen with it?
Oh, I think you're going to see a lot of teams run 2-2-1 looks, to slow people up a little bit and get them, into that shot clock a little bit.
Just munch 15 seconds off.
Yep.
By the time, that's what I immediately went to, a soft 2-2-1 or a 2-1-2. That we want. If we turn it over, great. If we make them take a quick shot, great. But we take 15 seconds. There's another 5 seconds for them to set up their action. 10 seconds, they're most likely shooting a contested jump shot at that point. Yeah, that to me that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, and I think you're gonna. And something I'm kind of batting around is starting to press 2 off of misses, and try to just match up right off of a miss, and try to do a little scramble situation off that, and just that's something that's definitely going to take a lot of practice, but. You don't want to have teams just come down and have the full shot clock on every possession. You definitely add a new element where you're going to have to mix it up a little bit. I love that it takes away people not just standing out there holding the ball.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the biggest thing. And the only good argument I've ever heard, I think, against it is just the gameplay aspect, or the ability of an inferior team to have some control over how many possessions, some way for them to manipulate the game. Because there is an idea that if you're forced to play at a certain speed, the better team will win. Now, at the end of the day, it'll force all of us to make our players better, to be more purposeful with skill work, and to have an identity offensively with how we play. But that's the only good argument I've heard against the shot clock.
Yeah, I think that, it will affect some teams when you're just light years ahead of them, both talent wise and just program. I think it'll cause some problems there. And that's one of those things that I've seen teams do a running clock and run the clock and you might see more of that. I don't know.
Hmm.
That I think that's going to be a discussion between probably the conference might have to sit down and have a discussion about
Yeah.
that.
Well, I can't wait. I can't wait. About a month or two in, I'm going to call you and I'm going to just ask you how it's going, because I talked with Tommy Brackle, and he's really big on the UIL side of getting it there,
Yeah,
and then hopefully at one point TAPS will follow both you guys and get it done.
I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's eventually. I mean, we're a minority,
Yeah.
with in the state, with a lot of these other states are all going towards that, and we don't want to be the last one standing. So I think it's going to happen, hopefully pretty soon for all the conferences going into a shot clock.
Well, Coach, I've just really appreciated you over getting to know you. You came to our gym last year, but I've always been a fan of you and your programs, your teams. But man, thank you so much for coming on and sharing today, because I thought you were awesome.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for doing this, man. It's great for the community, the coaching community, to just hear different things and keep learning from each other.
Well, there's so many great high school coaches. It's really fun. It's fun to talk to the college guys. Like I'm obviously look forward to doing that and learning from them. But I mean, guys like you and like you said, Coach Henderson, Brackle, like Wes Watson, like golly, there's just so many great coaches just in our area. Then you go down to Houston, San Antonio.
Yep.
I mean, and I mean, there's things from this talk today that really got me thinking, and that I can put in, and so it's so much fun to get to do this.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.